The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Good afternoon and welcome. This is Chatting with Jocelyn. I'm your host, Jocelyn. It is a beautiful summer day here in Nashua in New Hampshire, and I have a fabulous guest. We haven't had her here in a while because, we've had all these situations and events going on in the world. So we are back to normal. We are back to talking with people, being human, being caring, and helping one another. So my guest today is Rebecca Packard. Welcome, Rebecca.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, everyone.
We go way back. As some of you may remember, we worked 911 EMS together, and that's where we first met, and sort of went through the journey of taking people to hospitals and how do you heal, and realizing that we as providers needed to heal. Mm-hmm. We needed to be whole and had to recognize situations that aren't always black and white.
Yes.
little things that we were finding ourselves having to do, the trauma of some of our calls, the trauma of dealing with families. Yeah. I remember you telling me once as we were walking out of the emergency room, you were like, okay, we've got to let everything stay inside there. So we stopped before you go on the outer door, and basically was like, okay, everybody that, wants to suck the power and energy out of me, okay, you can all stay here because we're going for lunch, and see ya.
Yes, you're not coming with us.
you can stay here.
Can stay here.
We need to keep our positive selves, and and that's I think where it first started, and then went radio, and then you would do was it every week or every other week? Yeah, we were doing a lot of healing. And then we came to TV, and now we're back again. So Yay! I am so excited. You're going to learn so much. So the first part of the show, we're going to talk about what you actually do. We have some props here. Can you use? What can you have? Not should or must, shall, but what things are helpful to people? We're in a time where we just came out of being muzzled and masked. We have children that are not speaking well, that don't understand emotion in the face, don't read people's emotions and body language very well. And this is pretty dangerous because children, especially very young children, need to learn. Yeah. They need to learn what does this face look like? What are those eyes saying? Why is this person not talking? Or why can't I hear? We have children with hearing issues that read lips. My mother reads lips, and she couldn't for over a year. She's like, I can't understand you. So on a general sort of overview, what have you seen happen in the last 2 years that concerns you, that you feel we all need to pay attention to, and what can we do?
Oh, so many things. That's like Pandora's box. So we've regressed 150 years in a lot of different spaces, and especially in our emotional space, because people haven't been making eye contact. People haven't been using their words and haven't been speaking to each other. And that is not just in the general public, but it's within homes too, which is why we're seeing so many young people having such a hard time, because we think, oh, well, this only happened to me. No, this happened to everybody, and everybody is dealing with it differently. And depending on where they sat prior to pandemic world, if they already had a lot of stuff on that plate, this could have been the hair on the camel's back for them. If they didn't, or if there's someone who pretends that everything's okay, then they're just swimming along like the general fish, which is fine, great, but not everybody is handling and but everybody is holding and carrying something.
Correct.
And so what is something that I'm seeing a lot of is that buck up and keep moving. That's going to cripple us.
Because you haven't dealt with anything.
You haven't dealt
Yeah.
with anything. And whether you feel like you have something or not, you do. And I came to this realization, which was also a big moment in my own healing journey, in Atlanta, Georgia, when the train came through the airport. I did not recognize that I was still carrying massive trauma from 9/11. To the point where I was by myself, the doors of the train shut, and I came unhinged, to the point where security was involved. Of like, what do we do with this woman? Is she gonna like come back to life? Like she's on the floor, like what's going on? And in that moment, I realized I had never dealt with the trauma of being in the space of such a vicinity. I was in freshman, my first time away from home in Rhode Island, and the entire state of Rhode Island, no one really knows this unless you were in Rhode Island, was shut down, and tanks came into Providence, Rhode Island.
On 9/11?
On 9/11, because they had somebody who had gotten on a train and they said they were coming to blow up Rhode Island next. And if you weren't in the state of Rhode Island, you probably didn't know that.
Never heard that before.
But we were surrounded by tanks. We were influxed with military that were carrying guns. In the United States, we are not used to that. In other countries, they're quite used to seeing people walking around with AK-47s, like when we go to like Israel and different places like that, that's natural. But we weren't really used to that. I had never dealt with that trauma. And at 18 years old in the city by yourself, like that's a lot. And then just the space of going to a school that had people who were from New York and being on the phone for hours and hours and finding out whose family was affected and whose family wasn't affected and all these different things. So I tell that story because at some point in your life, you might be in the supermarket and something might make a noise behind you and you're going to come unhinged because you didn't know that you were carrying something because you're compartmentalizing. And many, many people compartmentalize their trauma. So through emotion code, we can release trauma. Through tapping, we can release trauma. Through meditation, we can release trauma. Through oils, I know that sounds crazy, but oils, we can release trauma. And all of these different tools are tools that I use in holistic modalities with my clients to help them, and in workshops that I run, to help them release trauma in an easy and effortless way, in a non-confrontational way, without having to relive it, because nobody likes to do that.
But that's what tends to happen.
It tends to happen
when you go to therapists. There's this drum being beaten that you have to relive it, you have to talk about it, relive it, and then you keep
so traumatizing.
Yes.
Your amygdala, your fight or flight response cannot continuously be hammered. And right now, depending on what's going on in your life, you might be, without even realizing it, hammering it again and again and again with what you're taking in. Because when we're traumatized and we don't deal with it, we kind of get addicted to trauma. Oh, what does that sound familiar with? Oh, watching games or watching shows like Game of Thrones, not being able to shut off the news, even though you don't want to watch the news.
Right.
You're addicted to the space because what it does is it releases different hormones in your body that says, keep watching, keep doing, keep showing up in this space. So the biggest thing that I help people with is to kind of reboot your trauma system, reboot your fight or flight response. And we start that by, what is your fight or flight response? Because everybody's isn't the same. You have to identify it. So, which is also a space of negligence where we're not all one emotion. So when we have people who are outwardly violent, when we have people who are angry and aggressive, 99.9% of the time, they're in a trauma state. Just like the person laying on the couch who's lazy and can't get out of their own way. Again, trauma. More often than not, they're in a trauma state. So these different tools, EFT, emotion code, body code, meditation, can help to reset that so that you can move forward, so that you can go back to life and move past this trauma in this trauma space.
Now, trauma, a lot of people believe is a car accident. You go to war, you're missing a limb, you're abused in a family situation. It's not always that obvious. It's not always
I would
that
love
extreme,
it to be obvious
simple.
and extreme and that simple, but it is not. And depending on where your fight or flight response is, depends on what the trauma is. Because when we look at that, it can be somebody who's been neglected their whole life and been treated like they're invisible. That is trauma, because we are innately wired to need to be a part of a community, to need to be a part of the pack, a need to be seen and heard and interacted with. And so somebody who is neglected and treated invisible and treated separate in a home situation, in a school situation, that is traumatizing, and it directly affects their ability to function and their ability to communicate, their ability to learn, and their ability to move forward in life. And you can see this repeatedly in the different studies that have taken place, where they're actually finding that people who have been abused physically, emotionally, or sexually tend to do better than people who were long-term neglected.
Wow.
In social standings, which is horrifying, because we always had that in a different way, but there's been study after study after study, because people want to prove it wrong now. So now they do more and more studies to try and prove it wrong, and they keep coming up to the same conclusion that it's actually
Because
not
there was
good.
still, albeit horrific
circumstances,
there was
but
still
there was
interaction. Right.
There was still interaction. There was still
The person chained down in the basement.
It's not good. It's not okay. It doesn't make it right in any point, but it's how those people are able to communicate, are able to learn, are able to move forward, are able to find strength in different situations. And it's
I mean, it makes
quite
sense,
crazy.
but it is amazing how they try to prove it wrong, but it's the same over and over.
Yeah.
So I know with essential oils, and you and I used to do quite a few of. We would do an essential oil and a matching crystal and that kind of thing for every show. So we'll probably do the same thing again.
Yeah.
But why? We're so used to saying, oh, I'm sick. Oh, I have a headache. Oh, I'm depressed. Oh, I'm this. Let's go to the doctor. The doctor throws a bunch of pills at you. It masks it all up. It covers it up. It doesn't deal with anything. And you're still in the exact same place as when you walked in. You already self-identified, I'm depressed, or I'm sad, or I'm overweight, or whatever your thing is. You've pretty much identified it, because you're now going to the doctor. You're not like going there and saying, I don't know what's wrong with me.
Right.
You have an idea, you talk about it, and they throw pills at it. In some instances, it's necessary.
Yes, there are
we're not saying
cases
it's
where it is necessary to be medicated. But here's the difference between a homeopathic and a standard medication, is that something like essential oil is actually going to invigorate the brain. It has a frequency, it has a lifespan, it has a connection with nature. It has the ability, when you smell it or wear it, to light up the different parts of your brain, whether that be your hippocampus, your frontal lobe, your cortex, your brainstem. It lights up the parts of the brain that are in correlation with how it can help you. So when you are using something like frankincense, the whole brain lights up. And they've done studies on this. They're fascinating to pull up and see the brain scans of people who take a pill and you don't see anything happen, because it's not a living thing. It's a man-made thing.
Correct.
And then you see them take and they smell an oil, and the brain just lights up like a Christmas tree, because so many things happen in those electronic firings of all of our little highways within our brain that say, oh, that's right.
Well,
I
when
can
you smell
release
it,
this.
You said Christmas tree. So
Yeah,
at Christmas,
Christmas.
when you smell the pine cones that have the cinnamon, you immediately, your brain goes, Christmas.
Christmas. Well, and even think of just the space of the Christmas tree. When you work with pines, when you work with evergreens, when you work with the Christmas tree smells, those are healing to family relationships. and your relationship with your family's relationship with you. This is something that we can see over and over and over through history where they didn't really know why it did that, but now we can see where it lights you up is the part of the brain that affects. So when you smell a Christmas tree, you think, oh, I remember that time where my aunt gave me that doll and like, oh, and you have that sensation in you.
And it's instant.
And it's
instant recall, yeah.
And it's because that pine is a smell that works and correlates with your ability to connect with your ancestry, with your family, and to heal the spaces that are wounded in there.
Oh, I love it.
There's so many layers to it.
But in full disclosure, you're not just going to go out and buy, balsam cedar and go, because you really need to be working with a essential oil specialist because you need a certain grade. You don't want to buy it from the dollar store. Sorry, you want to be very careful that it's a food grade or what's the other
homeopathic grade. But I always prefer food grade.
Correct. So
Always
accidental.
food grade because accidental ingestion is a big thing. However, even beyond accidental ingestion, you will absorb 26% of anything that touches your skin. And your skin is the biggest organ of the body. And you're going to be putting it on your person. Whether you spill it on your hands or you're literally making a lotion or a satchel or you're putting it on a necklace or you're putting it in a hand cream or whatever, always just get something that you know is food grade, and you can tell it's food grade by Google. Google will tell you every food grade oil that's out there. And so, and the practitioner you're working with or the oil person that you're working with should know immediately. If they don't know immediately,
walk away.
They probably are somebody that you could help learn that by pulling out your phone and Googling food grade oil. Because when you are taking and putting this on your person, whether you're putting on lotion, whether you're putting on oils, whether you're putting on anything, you're absorbing it. It's going to go into your person. And so being cognizant of that, you can release different toxins into your body. You can, a lot of the oils that are being sold that have just like popped up are being cut with alcohol. They're being cut with chemicals. So you never want to be using something that has a chemical in it.
Well, you know what I find very disconcerting, finding a little odd, is how people will go to a store and buy a body lotion and they don't look at the ingredients. It's just like, well, this is going to make my skin not dry. This is going to make my skin soft. This is going to be blah, blah, blah. Never look into the ingredients. Never question it. But someone talks about essential oils. Oh, that's ridiculous. Oh my God, that's just, woo-woo. That's just weirdo stuff.
It's woo-woo, but it's been around for over 3,000 years, and they've been using it in every single religion and every single ethnicity and every single human space that has been in existence that's been charted all the way back to the Stone Age at this point, where they've pulled up different spaces where oils were used. So woo-woo or not, works. It's got time behind it.
And you know where it's coming from.
Yeah.
And another little, so don't be so dismissive. That's the word I was looking for. Dismissive. Just because you don't know about it and someone else is dismissive, well, that's their problem, not yours. You need to. Exactly. So, and if you're going to use essential oils, I mean, they're just so amazing. Some of them that you put on your skin, you want to put on, you've heard the word carrier oil. So some of these oils you don't want to put directly on your skin. So you have coconut oil and almond oil, some people olive oil. Grapeseed oil, and again, the purest that you can get.
Yes.
And again, a drop or two.
Right.
If you don't, if you're just starting new with this, but again, try to work with some a professional. But that's how you introduce it onto your skin. So don't be so dismissive when you will eagerly go out and put petroleum-based hand lotions. And again, petroleum-based meaning
gasoline.
Gasoline.
Yeah.
Oil. Not coconut oil. Gasoline and fuel oil. So, and we're not kidding.
No.
And it's not, this is not to scare you. This is to say,
It's to be honest.
Open your mind and don't be dismissive, because there's so much in this world we have forgotten and we don't know about that are
Well, and with the education is everything. If you don't believe what somebody's telling you, educate yourself. It's not about pushing something down your throat to make you change what you're doing, but if you're somebody who is excessively sick, if you're somebody who is excessively aching, if you're somebody who repeatedly sees different things in your family like heart disease, cancer, all these different things, look in your cabinets. What are you eating? What are you ingesting? What are you wearing? What are you putting on your skin? What are the things that you can change today that can help you to change the outcome of that down the road? Because a lot of the things that you'll find are things that you would be like, wow, I didn't know that. Why am I even using this? The second you start to like open that up and start reading those things and start looking at those things, you'd be like,
and they're pretty simple.
Wonder I wasn't feeling that great.
Well, and a really simple example is toothpaste.
Absolutely.
With the fluoride in it. Go look up what its properties are, where it comes from, and what it can do to you.
Yeah.
And it's not necessary. That's just a really simple one.
Yeah, it's something that we're all trying to decrease our footprint in the space of our habitat. We need to take care of the earth. We are not the owners of this planet. We are merely stewards taking and caring for this space in this one time frame. We are a blip. We are a piece of sand in the universe right now, and we are wreaking havoc. And so the least amount of things you can purchase in the space of plastics, of toxins, it can help you to shift that in your home of being less toxic, but it can also shift your footprint in the world of less garbage and less contaminants that you're placing out into the world, whether that is through your trash or just your being in the space of your home. And also, and this is a bigger conversation that most people don't have, but also the way that you're affecting the third world countries that take on the trash that we're not keeping in our own backyards in first world countries.
Correct.
And how if we take and we shift how that looks in our own home, the effect that it has worldwide. When we have a decreased footprint, when we are more sustainable, when we are more responsible for what we're using, what we're wearing, what we're eating, how we're showing up, we're changing that conversation worldwide. We're also changing the trauma conversation that takes place behind all those things that also goes unnoted and uncharted, because
the overeating,
it's
and the drinking,
all
and
of
the
those
sodas
things.
and the plastic bottles,
And
which
overconsumption and
overconsumption in general.
Yeah.
That's a really, really good point, that the trauma in your life can cause you all those different things. And when you take it one step farther, you can be OCD and you want to wash everything. And that's, I'm being a little silly, but you wash everything. And, but you're buying the big bottles of Tide and this plastic. And I've discovered they actually make sheets. Laundry detergent, biodegradable. We know that Dawn dish detergent is water soluble and doesn't stay.
And enzymatic, so it breaks down and is biodegradable.
So those are little things.
Little tweaks that one can save you a ton of money.
Yes.
Also can save you a ton of money, but also can be hugely beneficial to your physical health, your mental health, your spiritual health, the way that you show up in the world and the way that your family is showing up in the world. And it goes full circle. It always goes full circle.
It absolutely does. So as far as emotion code, how do people reach out to you so that you can help them identifying the trauma, what their next step would be? How do they reach out to you?
So you can connect with me through my website, which is RebeccaPackard.com. And I also have an Instagram and a Facebook, which is at Rebecca Packard NH. But the number one way is through my website. You can contact me there. You can email me there. You can watch videos. I have a YouTube channel. But if you want to connect with me, if you want to have a conversation with me, it's through RebeccaPackard.com.
Now, you can also do online and phone.
Yes.
consultations.
Yeah. I have a
Also
trial
healings,
session.
too.
Yeah. I do everything except for my workshops. I do workshops live, but all my one-on-one sessions are through Zoom, telephone, or 100% full distance. And I've had my practice that way since it started in 2015. And so I didn't like the pandemic. However, it did teach everyone to use Zoom, and I always look at the silver lining, and that has been it for me. So more people are like open to doing a video chat. And so it's been really good. So I have clients all over the world who work with me, and they just go on my website and you book what you would like to work on, and you set the time and the day on my calendar, and then you just click the Zoom link and show up in your virtual office.
So what would you say to people that say, how do you heal? How do you do this over the phone? How do you do that long distance? Don't I have to be right in front of you?
No. And energy is a funny thing. First of all, I help and guide you through what you're already ready to release, because you wouldn't be seeking me if you didn't already know that you were willing and able to let something go. The other way is I use kinesiology, and as if you've ever watched Oprah, you saw that kinesiology works anywhere in the world. Jack Canfield has told people that, showed people that for decades and decades, and using kinesiology to find answers to questions, and then helping to release through meditations, through the motion code of releasing and removing, and then through the body code, which also helps to specify areas and release and remove. But
I love it. Yeah. Well, we have zoomed through this half hour, as we always do, which is why we have to do lots of shows. I hope this has really allowed you to open your mind a little bit and embrace a little bit of woo-woo. And because it's not a bad thing in this world, we have to remember that what you put out, you get in return. You put out positivity. And again, that's not being, I love you, you love me. It's simply being respectful of one another, being respectful that we don't know what somebody is going through at any one moment of the day. That something as simple as go to a professional and say, hey, I've got a friend, they get headaches all the time. Do you have an essential oil, a blend? They have a little roller ball, and you can and give that as a gift. That is so caring and positive. That's going to come back tenfold to you. And this is what's missing with the masking of everybody and locking up of everybody. That all was stuffed down deep where it doesn't need to be. So let's start coming out of our shells. Let's go back to caring about one another, because quite frankly, in the end, that's all we have.
Yep.
I love it. So see you next time. Thanks for joining me, Jocelyn, on Chit Chatting with Jocelyn, and we will have Rebecca back soon.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.